Imagine this. You're dealing with anxiety so intense that even getting out of bed feels like climbing a mountain. You're constantly worried, exhausted, and overwhelmed. But instead of reaching out, you keep it all to yourself because you're afraid people will say you're being dramatic or weak. For millions of people, that's not just a bad day, that's their life. I spent a lot of time researching this issue through organizations like the National Institute of Mental Health and the American Psychological Association. But more importantly, I've seen people I love struggle in silence because they were too afraid of being judged. That's what really made this topic personal for me. Let's be honest, mental health affects all of us. Maybe you've experienced stress, anxiety, or burnout. Or maybe you've had a friend or family member battle depression or trauma. According to the National Institute of Mental Health in 2022, about 1 in 5 adults in the U.S. experience mental illness every year. That's not a small issue, that's millions of people. Today I'm going to talk about 3 things: why mental health stigma is still such a big problem, what we can do to help change that, and how the world could be better if we all took this seriously. The biggest problem? People are afraid to talk about mental health. They're scared they'll be seen as lazy, unstable, or attention-seeking, so they keep it to themselves, and it gets worse. According to the American Psychological Association in 2023, stigma is one of the top reasons people avoid seeking treatment, and the consequences are serious. Delayed treatment leads to worsening conditions, relationship problems, job loss, and yes, even suicide. This is not just about being sad, this is about life and death in some cases. Some people still think mental illness is something you can just snap out of, or that it's not as serious as physical health problems, but we know better. Research shows that mental illnesses are caused by real changes in the brain. Just like other medical conditions, mental illness is not a choice. Maybe you don't think this applies to you, but mental health affects families, schools, communities, and workplaces. If one person is struggling silently, it can impact everyone around them. Mental Health America in 2023 emphasized that untreated mental illness costs the U.S. economy billions in lost productivity every year, not to mention the emotional toll on individuals and families. So what can we do? We need to teach people what mental health really is, from a young age. Schools and workplaces should include mental health education, just like we learn about exercise and nutrition. The World Health Organization in 2022 actually recommended that community education is one of the most effective ways to reduce stigma worldwide. This one might seem small, but it matters a lot. When we talk about mental health, we normalize it. When we say, hey, I go to therapy, or I've struggled too, we create a safe space for others to do the same. Campaigns in countries like Norway that encourage public dialogue actually reduce suicide rates. According to the Norwegian Institute of Public Health in 2021, that's the power of being open. We also need to push for policies that make therapy and mental health care accessible and affordable. And on a more personal level, we need to be better friends. That means checking in on people, listening without judgment, and taking them seriously when they say they're struggling. So what does the future look like? If we ignore the problem, we'll continue to lose lives unnecessarily. People will continue to suffer in silence. The cycle of shame, silence, and stigma will go on. But if we take action, we'll live in a world where people feel safe asking for help. A world where students don't hide their struggles, where employees feel supported, where families talk openly, and communities grow stronger. Imagine a world where therapy is as normal as a dentist appointment, where no one is afraid to say, I'm not okay. That's the world we should be working towards. Mental health is just as important as physical health, and we need to treat it that way. So here are some things you can do right now. First, talk about it. Be open. Start conversations. It's not awkward, it's human. Second, educate yourself and others. Share accurate information, call out stigma when you hear it, and support mental health campaigns in your school or workplace. And third, support friends and family. If someone opens up to you, don't minimize their feelings. Listen, support, and encourage them to get help. Let's stop making people feel ashamed for something they didn't choose. Let's stop pretending mental illness is invisible or insignificant. Let's build a world where people no longer feel alone. Because no one should ever have to suffer in silence, and that change starts with us. Thank you.